Okay, so El Oro Maximo, or Matthew, as you are known without the mask. Can you tell us a little bit about your first memory of wrestling and how you got into watching wrestling?
My first memory in wrestling, the thing I love to this day, was, I can't really remember the age, but I was very young, and there was kind of a gap in between. I watched it when I was really young. I had the toy sets and everything. I think it was around the Attitude Era. And then I remember stopping up into primary. Then I had friends talking about it, and I got back into it and regained the love I had. And then, I just watched it, wrestled with my friends. Then I was just thinking about, okay, how can I get into this? I couldn't know anything. I didn't know anything there was in New Zealand, but all I knew was I wanted to get a part of it. And I think it was my last year in intermediate, so still quite young. All I knew was IPW. I thought I'll just wait till I'm 16, because you had to be 16, and I'll try out for them. Until one day I was walking around these shops, just browsing. I looked down. It was a real small sign of Hughes Academy training, and I'm glad I looked down and saw that, because I went to the training the next time there was one after I saw that, and it all started from there.
You mentioned when you started training at the Hughes Academy, so how did you find when you were first training, and what were some of the challenges that you faced when you started training?
I found it really, very interesting, and I was real nervous, but really excited. And I just, as soon as I saw that sign, it was a week before, because training's on Saturdays, and I couldn't wait. I couldn't sleep. I told my mom and parents about this. I said, there's training called Hughes Academy, and can I go to it? They said, yep. So I went on the Saturday morning, got there early, and I just tried my best and listened, and that's all you can really do.
So with the actual training in itself, obviously there was lots of conditioning, lots of warming up, lots of those kind of bits. How did you find that? Did you find it easy, or did you find some of it challenging or difficult? How was that aspect of it?
Yeah, the cardio, I was quite fit, so I didn't find the cardio too hard. But when I got into the moves, it was quite difficult, especially the technical part. I found that hard. I still do. That's why I'm a high flyer. I just listened, and just the technical I found quite hard.
So with sort of stepping away from training just a little bit, so when you had your very first match, how did that come about? How much notice did you get? And how did you feel going into that first match that you had?
So I started training at the end of 2013, and I believe it took around 6 months of training, and my trainer Graham Hughes said I was ready after 6 months. I believe it was 6 months. I was June 14th, 2014 was my debut match against Daniel Viper Kartik, which was his first match also. And that's where it started.
So how did you feel when you got told that you were going to have your first match?
I was just so excited. I couldn't believe it was actually happening. I was getting in the ring, and it was a dream come true. It was one of the biggest days of my life, and
do you remember anything about that day? Is that day kind of a blur, like the day of your debut match? Talk us through the day a little bit. So sort of like when you wake up, you think, oh, it's today the day, or is it just nerves as soon as you woke up, and then sort of lead us into the match and just before you step through the curtain, like what's going through your head, what you're thinking and feeling, and the pressure that there is having your debut match. Like, explain how that all worked for you on the day.
Well, there was a lot of nerves, but a lot of excitement. More excitement than nerves. I was really excited. I've been training for 6 months, and I don't even know if I was ready, but I felt ready, and I wanted to prove that I was ready. And yeah, me and Kartik had the same vision, same idea. We just wanted to get in there, and it was the first match of the night, and we just wanted to tear the house down and put on the match of the night. And yeah.
So looking back on that match now, obviously a few years after your debut match, how do you feel that match went? Obviously your expectations for yourself will change over the couple of years since your debut, but do you look at that match now still really excited and still really happy about it, or would there be things that you'd change about that match or the situation?
I wouldn't change anything about that match. I was very happy being a debut match, and still being young. I was very happy with myself, and I couldn't have asked for a better start.
So, from your debut match, there was a little bit of controversy around your second match on a Hughes Academy show, in a tag team match, which was you and Shadow Ninja against Bull Adams and Styx. So can you explain a little bit about that match and the planning of that match and how it was different to your debut match?
That match was completely different to my debut match. It was a tag team match. So, and it was just a lot different, and I wasn't happy with that match. It was Styx and Bull Adams, me and Shadow Ninja first, and yeah, I just didn't go good. We won the match, I think, but yeah, that was good. But
so from the tag team match, when you look back on that match now, how do you feel about that match in terms of not just how the match went and wins and losses and all that kind of thing, but just the structure of the match, how the match was put together, because you're in there with 3 experienced wrestlers, so
yeah, because
you're put in that awkward position straight away of being the underdog in the whole thing.
It was my second match, and it was completely different. My first match was a singles, and both our debuts, so we were both new. And the second match, I was just thrown in with these very real experienced guys who's been around for years, and I don't know if I got outclassed or just got bullied, but I don't know. I don't really think about it much, that match. I try not to think about matches I don't feel good about, but I was happy with my tag team partner. I really like tagging with Shadow, but yeah, I'm more of a singles. I like singles matches. I feel more comfortable. And yeah.
So with you saying about you obviously prefer singles matches, so what are some of the really good singles matches that you've had throughout your career? Because you've been wrestling for a few years now, and you've wrestled in lots of different places. You've wrestled up in Auckland, you wrestled in Wellington, you wrestled up in Whangarei. You've travelled around a decent amount for the first couple of years in the business. So how have you found your opponents have been? Do you have any opponents that you're really pleased with how you meshed with them and how you gelled with them? And what have been some of the really good memories that you have from being on the road and from travelling and from wrestling all these different people?
I'm lucky that I got to verse a lot of different wrestlers and not just the same all the time, so I'm glad and happy that I got to do that, and it would help with experience. And they weren't all good, but most of them were. Got to travel. I really like to travel because most of my matches are home based, real close, and when I get the chance to travel, I really enjoy it.
So what can you go through some of the places that you've been to wrestling and who you've wrestled when you have travelled?
So, first road trip, first travel, I wasn't in a match, but I went down to Wellington, and I was just there with the crew, watching the show, and that was a good experience.
So with that show, is there anything like in particular you remember? If I remember rightly, we all got on a bus in Auckland and travelled overnight. Arrived in Wellington the next day, and we went on a little tour of Wellington. But how was that day? It was sort of, pardon me. How was that day in terms of, being tired and travelling on the road, watching a show, and how did you feel going to watch a show and not being part of the show?
I was just happy to travel because I haven't really been around the country. I've been overseas to Australia once just to see family, but I'm normally in Auckland and I don't get to travel much, and that was the first time I really got to travel. I took my gear because just in case anything can happen in wrestling, and you just never know. But unfortunately, I didn't get to use the gear. I was just happy to be there, and it was tiring, but I had a lot of fun. It was a good experience.
Do you remember sort of chatting with promoters and some of the other wrestlers down there, and the wrestlers that you hadn't met? Is there anybody that really stood out to you from that show? Whether they're wrestling now or not, or if they're names that people are familiar with or not, were there any sort of moments from that show that stood out?
I don't really remember much about the show, really. It was just more of the travel and the experience around Wellington. But it was good. It was really good to meet new faces and new wrestlers, and in the wrestling business, you just got to be really respectful and just get your name up there and just let them know you wrestle and you want to wrestle with different promotions.
So then you talk about the being respectful to other wrestlers, and obviously there's a lot of rules in wrestling, and they're all like these unwritten rules.
Yes.
So how was it learning about those and adapting to those? Because there's a lot of things in wrestling that aren't really widely known, and they're not I say normal things, not normal etiquette things, but there's an etiquette in wrestling. And how was that, learning that, and was it nerve-wracking having to go up and introduce yourself to people and shaking people's hands properly and all that kind of things? How did you find all of those?
Honestly, I had getting into wrestling. I didn't know anything about the rules. I just wanted to wrestle and train, and there's a lot of rules in wrestling which I don't know of, and I'm still learning to this day. You just gotta just keep your head down and just be nice and respectful, and meet new contacts, people, get your name up.
So there was a few years, or maybe even just a year after that trip to Wellington, that you and I believe it was Kartik travelled down together to Wellington to wrestle for WPW. How did that opportunity come about? Do you remember how that opportunity came about, and how you got the match with WPW, and what was the match that you went down there for?
Yes, that was the first match of last year down in Wellington. Me and Kartik tagged up. We travelled down there together, and it was different from the last trip because it was just us travelling there, and it was the first time on a out of Auckland show being in a match. Yeah, it was very interesting. It was kind of scary being out there alone because I didn't have, like, my trainers wasn't there, and yeah, it was interesting.
So do you remember who you and Kartik wrestled against in that match, and how did you think the match went?
Me and Kartik went up against Rideau Drive, Bryant, and Chad Howard. and I believe they had two. It was a title match. Yeah, I think they had two titles, two tag team titles, and yeah, so just start off the year, because I mean, me and Kartik started together, and it's always good to tag up, because I consider him my best friend in wrestling, and yeah, we lost that match, but I think it went good.
So being in a different locker room than you're used to, obviously the NZWPW locker room, how was being back there? Was it scary and daunting, or was it just another wrestling locker room that you're in with? I mean, obviously you know some of the people there, and you're wrestling against people that you do happen to know. So how did you find the whole experience with being in a different locker room?
A lot different, because there was a lot of, I knew a little bit of people, but not a lot. There was a lot of people I didn't know, and yeah, I just really, I keep to myself, really. I say hi to everyone, and then I just prepare my mind for the match ahead.
Okay, so going back to sort of some more Auckland-based things, you've done a lot of matches, obviously with the Hughes Academy, but you've also done a lot of matches with Maniacs United. How have you found those opportunities have come up? Have you approached the bookers? Have the bookers approached you? And how has that whole situation of how to get yourself more bookings with Maniacs United, how's that worked?
Maniacs United and I have good communication. They're actually waiting for me to ask them. And so one of the shows, I think it was in, it was up north, somewhere up north. I had a singles match with Kartik, and yeah, Stacey, the Maniacs United manager leader, I approached her and asked if I could do Maniac show, and I got told, oh, we're just waiting for you to ask, and so it all started from there. And I'm pretty much a regular for them now.
So you managed to get yourself a little bit of a following just within New Zealand wrestling, and when you come out and you chant C at everybody and everybody chants it back at you. So do you remember the origins of how saying C came about, and who pitched the idea to you? Was it an idea you came up with yourself, and how did that go into being shows? And then how was it trying to get that over and to start doing that on shows? Was it scary, or was it just kind of an everyday thing? It's got to be done, so I'm just going to do it.
The C chant elevated my career, I think. It took my wrestling career to a next level. It all started at June 2015, so I was a year in. And on a tournament show, I don't remember the date, but I was on the tournament, and my trainer Graham said to me backstage, "I should try do a chant." And so I just went with C, and I was nervous about it, because you just never know if the crowd will go along with it. So you just got to go for it, and they went along. Thankfully.
So you mentioned the tournament, the 2015 tournament where you went sort of through to the final, and obviously those tournaments, especially, nobody knows who they're wrestling. Nobody knows if they're doing one match, two matches, three matches. So do you remember who you wrestled in each of those 3 rounds, and how you felt seeing that you'd be in the final, and explain that sort of how that all came about?
So the 2015 tournament was and still is the highlight of my career. That was my favourite night. It was in the Custom Community Centre where I debuted, and it was also the last show we had there. And I made it to the final. I beat Bryant in the first round. Then one of my favourite matches was the second round with Charlie Roberts, who was the champion, Hughes Academy champion at the time, and I got the victory over him, which was probably one of my biggest victories in my career. And then I was in the final with Frankie Quinn. I came up short in the final, but after the match, something happened. What got me actually really emotional, because that was the first night I started the sea chant. And after the match, after I lost, I was just walking out, and the whole crowd was chanting "C." So that I remember that.
So you're saying it's quite an emotional night for you, going back to that June tournament. Do you remember, like, did anybody give you any feedback? Obviously the crowd were obviously really into it, and really into everything you were doing. Did you get any feedback from people, whether it was your trainers or your peers with wrestling? Like, did anybody really say much to you about it? How did that sort of the after the show go for you?
Yeah, I got a lot of positive feedback, and well done's, and a lot of people said I did good. And yeah, it was just the highlight of my career, really. For now, that was the highlight of my career that night. And I got a lot of positive feedback, and I gained a lot of confidence, which I didn't always have in my career, but from then it just boosted my confidence, and I had quite a good run after that.
So then after that, okay, so after the June tournament in 2015, you got propelled into a series of matches against a lot of well-known wrestlers from around New Zealand wrestling. You wrestled Jimmy Fox. He came out of retirement one night, and you had a match in September of that year. You wrestled Charlie Roberts for the Hughes Academy title. You wrestled Chad Howard. You wrestled Kingston, who later went on to wrestle for Noah. So how did you feel wrestling all of those people, and how did those opportunities come about, and how did you feel about those?
Yeah, that was a good series of matches in my career. Just after my big confidence boost after that tournament, I was ready for the next level, and I was ready for bigger and better competition, I felt. Actually, the next show after that, I wrestled for the Hughes Academy title. It was number one contender match, and that was a big deal. I got a victory over Charlie Roberts in the tournament, but this was a title match, so he got me on that one, and that was about a year ago now, and you don't get much chances at shots like that. And that was my one and only chance for now, and you just got to take it and just hold nothing back. And I held nothing back in that match, and I hope and I pray to get another shot one day. But yeah, after that it was I was still confident, and there was a series of matches with a lot of well-known veterans of New Zealand wrestling. Jimmy Fox did come out of retirement to verse me, and I believe that was still his last match. So that I felt special, real special to know that I was his last opponent. He dropped me on my head with a tombstone and got the victory. But I had a lot of fun with that match, and that was one of my favorite matches. And I thank him for giving me that shot. Then I think it was Chad Howard. I wrestled him. Oh, that was the last match of, I think it was Chad Howard or Kingston. One of them was after that Jimmy Fox match. Kingston was one match-wise, one of my favourite matches and best performances. I really enjoyed wrestling him. Just his whole character and his entrance, and I think he's just one unique, and he was one of my guys I wanted to verse. And then I was Shad Howard, a veteran of the game. They all beat me. They all taught me a good lesson. I learnt a lot from that series of matches.
So then moving into 2016, and I believe you went on a bit of a losing streak. So how was it coping with losing each show, especially for the Hughes Academy? Obviously, people can say what they want about wrestling and how the winners and losers occur, but how was it, and how did you feel losing sort of match after match while other people may not necessarily have had the same amount of losses as you did? How did you find sort of the win-loss record, and then how did you deal with that especially?
2016 was a very hard year. A lot of ups and downs within and outside the ring. A lot of losses. I didn't mind. When I started wrestling, I didn't mind about wins and losses, and I didn't mind. But after one thing happened, after a while, it gets to you. I just felt lost in the shuffle. I doubted myself, and there was good matches, good performances, but compared to 2015, I was quite disappointed with the year. I believe I got one victory. It was a tough one. It was a tough year. It was first year of me outside of school too, so I was in the real world, big world, and I had to deal with that while in the ring.
So how did you find that as a balance? Obviously leaving school, being a grown-up or being an adult, as it were, and then wrestling as well. How did you find that balance and getting that balance right, and how did that affect obviously your mindset and your work in the ring as well? So how did that affect you kind of on all levels?
It affected my whole mindset really. I wasn't confident, and it was real hard for me to balance both inside and outside the ring, and I think it got to me inside the ring, but I tried to remain focused as much as I could, and it was a tough one, but there was good matches, but
So with some of the matches that you had, obviously 2016, you said you had some good matches. Were there any that stood out for you that were particularly good, or that you really enjoyed, or that you look back and reflect on now and just think, well, no, that was actually a really good match, and I was really proud of what I did there? So if you could explain that, maybe give a couple of examples of matches that you've had that you really enjoyed from the last year.
I really enjoyed the match. I really enjoyed a fatal four-way I was in, which it was Rough Guts, me, Rough Guts, John Henry, and Shad Howard. I enjoyed that four-way. I had fun with that. And I can't really think of any other matches I actually enjoyed and I had fun with, except for the last match of the year, which was Maniacs, where I wrestled Graham Hughes. I ended the year with I just had fun and that's what I want to do. Just don't take it so serious. Just have fun with what I'm doing, and I think that reflects on the performances. And that's what I'm going to try to do this year.
So throughout your wrestling career, do you have a favourite match of all time that you've had? And when was that? Who was it against? And why was it your favourite match so far?
Favourite match of all time so far? I don't think I have a favourite. There's a few that stand out. Well, obviously the debut was always special. I enjoyed my matches with Charlie Roberts and Graham Hughes. I really liked the match. One of the matches I had with Kenneth. I had a lot of fun with that.
What about favourite opponents? Do you have any favourite opponents, people you really enjoy wrestling, or maybe people you enjoy teaming with, or go through some of your favourite people that you've wrestled?
Favourite people that I wrestle, I like to wrestle everyone, really. I don't know if I have a favourite. I love taking up with Kartik. Favourite opponents: Graham, Charlie Roberts, Kenneth. Yeah.
Okay, so do you have any regrets in wrestling? Sort of any missed opportunities or anything that you wish you could go back and change? Whether it's the content of a match itself, a situation outside the ring, or how is there anything you change, or do you have any regrets?
Regrets. I'm one of those people who don't really want to change things. I don't want to go back and change things because I believe everything happens for a reason, and it was supposed to be that way. And if I wanted to change a match, the match I had, second anniversary match with Kartik. Yeah, I had a high expectation for the match, and it wasn't that. It was just a train wreck, and there was a lot of pressure. There was cameras there, TV cameras and everything, and I actually went into a slump. I actually thought about considering taking a break from wrestling after that, because I was really not happy with how everything was going and where I was, and that really I continued to go from there, and I stuck with it and still going.
So when you said you hit a bit of a slump after that match with Kartik, how did you get yourself out of that slump, and what are you doing to try and make sure that those kind of incidents don't happen again, so you don't go into those slumps, and how are you working towards creating a good goal for yourself for the future based on that match?
Well, the goal, the key is for me, and I think it'll work for a lot of people, is to just have fun and just try to relax. I was too serious and too much pressure. My best matches, best performances has been where I just went and had fun, and you just gotta have fun with it and not take it too serious, because wrestling's supposed to be fun, and that's what it's all about.
So what's next for Oro Maximo? So obviously upcoming shows, but what's your plan for El Oro Maximo and for the future?
My goals, my plans, the future, for the short-term future. I wanna wrestle for more promotions. I wanna try wrestle for all the New Zealand promotions. I wanna take my game to the main event level. I wanna be at the top. I wanna be taken seriously and being known as not just our Oro Maximo who just goes out and says see and jumps off the rope. I wanna be the best in New Zealand wrestling, and then once I do that, hopefully go overseas, sign a contract. Main goal is to get to that big W, WWE. Yeah, that's the main goal. But for now, it's just to get to the top of New Zealand, the New Zealand scene, and get the Hughes Academy title. I'd really love to get that.
Oh, yes, and do you have any clothing things? Do you have any social media things you'd like to share with anybody?
Our Oro Maximo Facebook. I've got a Facebook, our Oro Maximo. That's my new social media page. Give that a like if you can, if you want.
Oh, awesome. Well, thank you very much, El Oro Maximo, or Matt, for coming in and being part of Behind the Wrestler. So thank you very much.